The Ouray Taft had set sail from New Bedford for Hudson Bay in June 1872. George A. Parker was the captain. In September, Captain Parker steered for Dead Man's Island to spend the winter. A stiff wind blew the ship toward the rocks, stern first. The planking caved in, and the running tide flowed through the ragged hold and split seams. The ship listed and sagged, but kept from sinking long enough for Captain Parker to beach it upright so his crew could winter on it. 2 weeks later, another whaler, the Ansel Gibbs, Thomas McPherson, captain, sailed into the inner harbor of Dead Man's Island and into the same winter wrapper of bad luck as the Ouray Taft. A strong wind blew the Ansel Gibbs off her chains and ran that 300-ton whaler onto the West Point rocks. A few days later, a third whaler reached Dead Man's Island. It was the Abby Bradford. Robert Gifford was its captain. Captain Gifford took no chances running the bad luck of the other two ships. He anchored the Abby Bradford outside the inner harbor. The crew on board the Abby Bradford had coal enough to stay warm and plenty of food. The two crews on board the Ouray Taft, however, were cold and hungry. But worse than the cold during that cursed winter was the scurvy.
Our scurvy is on the increase. My blacksmith is very low and can't stand it long. He seems to be all gone inside.
Scurvy is the curse of sailors. Scurvy is a deficiency of vitamin C, usually from a lack of fresh fruit and vegetables in the diet. The body weakens, bones ache, the gums go spongy and bleed, teeth fall out. And still the body bleeds inside, slowly. It bleeds into muscle and bone until there's no more blood to bleed. It's a horrible death. To make matters worse, Robert Gifford, captain of the Abby Bradford, would have nothing to do with the shipwrecked crews on the Ouray Taft. Gifford closed off his ship and crew, kept what food and fuel they had for his own men, and coldly watched as the shipwrecked sailors suffered and died. According to an old man at Rankin Inlet, it was the Inuit who eventually saved these whalers from death by scurvy. He tells how his grandfather crossed the ice bridge from the mainland with 2 deer livers and 2 hindquarters of a polar bear. The Inuit had saved these whalers from death by scurvy and starvation and from the heartlessness of their fellow whalers. For the next 2 weeks, Parker and crew nearly went blind with staring into the sun glints on the water, searching the horizon for hope. And then their bad luck changed. Another whaling ship dropped anchor at Dead Man's Island to load fresh water before sailing home. It was the Glacier, a New Bedford whaler. George Parker returned to New Bedford financially bankrupt and spiritually ruined. He never went to sea again. The strange thing is that Parker never said a word about Gifford's hoarding food and about Gifford abandoning the crew of the Ouray Taft to die on Dead Man's Island. Parker kept silent about it all, perhaps because he had his own dark secret about Dead Man's Island, a secret he recorded in the last pages of his ship's log, but later ripped out and burned. Perhaps what the Inuit said about these white whalers is true.
The white men came here to kill the great whale. They killed each other to survive. The way of the white men is not the way of the people.
History records numerous instances of cannibalism among shipwrecked and starving sailors. Most suffered guilt for the rest of their lives, and almost always kept their silence.